So today I am joined by my guest Clarice Taylor from the Russo Services Group. Clarice, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's Friday. I'm all good, David. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. The sun is shining. The weather is almost 16 degrees outside. It's summer, right? That's
It's
it.
looking promising this weekend. Let's hold our fingers crossed, definitely.
Um, Clarice, we're going to talk about something that is extremely close to my heart. And off camera, I used an analogy which was a little bit flippant, but I'm going to use it again. Moving CRMs for for an estate agent is the equivalent of sort of a divorce. It's not something you jump into just on a whim. It is something you have to be convinced that it absolutely has benefits. And you, very often as an estate agent, you think, oh God, it's going to be the most painful thing in the world. Now, the reason for that is not because the nice, shiny CRM you're going to isn't going to be much better than the old CRM that you're leaving. It's very often that you have this underlying anxiety that all of the data, all of your history kind of sits in that CRM. It is the engine that powers your estate agency business, and therefore moving it risks losing some of that memory, losing some of those details. And again, before we let you talk on that, another sub note to that is I very often, and I'm guilty of this all the time, look at things through the lens of perhaps a sales agent. So I'm very skin deep. I just want my pretty photos. I want my floor plans and my videos. I want my vendors' details, and I want as many contact details as possible so I can call them and make deals. But my property management side of my business will tell me, whoa, 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 David,
Hang
data
on a
migration,
bit.
data migration gives them even bigger anxiety because for them, it's payments, it's compliance reminders, it's
Mm,
certificates that are due. It can be the difference between life and death
all the
and
good
health
stuff.
and
Yeah.
safety for your
Yeah, yeah.
tenants. So actually, we do need people to hold our hand through this, and we do need a really, really thorough migration, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Clarice, over to you. What an opening!
Try and make it as fun as possible. Yes, no, I totally agree. And that line kind of did stick with me this morning. It did make me chuckle. And I think there's sort of another line that's kind of also I found the other day, which kind of made me chuckle, which is also, um, you know, we'll fix it later is probably one of the most expensive sentences you can ever say in a CRM migration because
Yeah.
that is where your trouble kind of starts. You want to not have to deal with that. You want to be able to know right from the beginning what we're dealing with it, why is it important, why is setting the right amount of time key, and how do I make all that happen and make it as painless as possible? Because yes, having your information in the right place is no one wants to go through that stress. And knowing how to do that and when to do it is kind of crucial, and that's kind of the kind of fun stuff I get into really.
So you know that question, how do we eat an elephant? And the
Mm,
answer is one bite at a time, right?
yeah.
This is a big topic, so we're gonna go at it one bite at a time. So I'm gonna you back all the way to the beginning of that journey.
Mm.
From your experience when agents are doing CRM migrations, typically where can they sort of start to go wrong? Where, you mentioned that issues will show up further down the line.
Mm.
Why do we not see that coming? Why is it not obvious to us?
Um, I mean, it usually starts sort of below the surface, really. At the beginning, everything could look fine. When you do your typical reporting, the balances might be in the right place, your tenancies might be in the right place, your marketing material might be in the right place. But it's a bit like an iceberg, you only see a small portion of kind of what's really there. And then underneath, you've got, years of data that's built up across all the different departments, and they all actually feed into each other. But it's only really when the data starts to move around in the new system, you properly start to see where there might be issues. So it's really that flowing of data from the beginning into the middle bit, into the kind of accounts piece. Um, and it's understanding where that data sits before you migrate, because then you stay in control and you're aware of what the problems are going to be. But if you don't, you do discover issues and problems at the worst possible time when you're trying to get used to a new system and trying to, run your business day to day.
So that preparation phase sounds like it's really sort of important. how in practice do you guys assist me in preparing to make this move? What happens?
Oh gosh, preparation, I probably would say, is the most important bit out of all of it. So think about it's like building a house, right? If you don't have your foundations right, it doesn't really matter how pretty it looks or how shiny it is, it just won't hold. And it's often a big pressure to move a conversion or migration really quickly because you've got deadlines for various different reasons. And the goal is always just to get into the system as quickly as possible. And the key thing is making sure that the data that sits underneath that I've mentioned before is properly checked. It is tested thoroughly, which is where I'm quite keen on helping people to achieve. Understanding, where everything fits together. Um, because those issues don't just disappear, they simply just show up much later. And that's usually at go live because that's when everything is live and there's lots of pressure and you're starting to use the system. So that's where time is really important, which is kind of where our team would come in. That time that you spend up front can feel expensive, it can feel tedious, but if you don't spend that time up front, you will spend 2 or 3 times longer dealing with it after, rather than beforehand. So it's not necessarily about slowing things down. It's making sure you're spending the key time in the right place, because if you do it right first time, it's so much better in the long run, and you'll reap the benefits at the end of it when you're live in a new system and everything is in the right place, basically.
I'm a yellow in terms of the four categories of people. There are your
Yeah,
reds, yellows, the greens, and the blues. So
yeah.
I'm to my core a salesperson. I want you to love me, like me, and I'm going to sell you something, and we're going to be friends.
Mm,
Um, in my property management department, there are plenty of greens and blues who are into the details. So their friends are the figures. Whereas
mm.
I go, opening balances, closing balances, who cares? Let's just get it done.
Details.
Let's go live today. It's fun. It'll work itself out
Oh, you're
later.
like many other people.
Talk to me then rationally about opening balances and why it's so important.
Yeah, so
Because we don't often. What I was going to say is we don't often see data migration for what it really is, which is probably the most important compliance exercise you will ever have to do.
oh yes.
So opening balances, where
Yeah,
are
well,
you
let
on
me.
that?
I guess I'll explain what an opening balance is first of all. So it's kind of where you've got landlords and tenants who've got cash assigned to their records. So this could be where landlords have got float money because they've got works orders to do, or you've got tenants who's got rent money due to go to landlords. That's kind of what we mean by opening balances. So it's kind of where you've left off in your last system, and the starting point where you want to start in the new system. So that's kind of where what an opening balance is. And if you start with the balances being in the wrong place against the wrong record, everything again will flow and will go horribly wrong if you don't make sure where everything is in the right place. So again, on the surface, the balance can look correct, the numbers can all tally up. You can make sure that your bank account matches your CRM system, but really, it's the data that sits behind it again that needs to be consistent, and that's generally where your problems will come in, especially where you've got landlords who owns multiple properties or they've got different tenants at different stages. It's if you don't make sure that the money's sort of sitting in the right place attached to the data at the core of it, it's when the transactional pieces start and you start to do your rent invoices and you start doing your contractor invoices and you want to start paying people, that's when it will kind of fall down. Because if that hasn't been sort of configured and checked and tested right from the beginning, that's probably the most critical point that an agent will very quickly figure out if things haven't gone well, because that means fundamentally you can't pay people rent, you can't pay contractors. So making sure that the money sits with the right data is kind of absolutely critical to get that right from the beginning. And it does take a bit of time and a bit of patience, and you've got to really be getting into the thick and the detail of it. But once you've got that right, it means that everything will just flow naturally between your daily processes that you do.
So I guess from your point of view and the work that you do then with agents at that point, that's almost like an audit, isn't it, on how the money matches to the
Hmm.
data.
Yes, you could say that. So we make sure that, let's say your system A that you're moving to system B, we make sure that everything that you've said you've got on your bank account matches to what your CRM system is saying that you've got. And then the essential bit is the breakdown of what makes up that money. Because if you're moving systems, you've got to be able to demonstrate as a business to be compliant that, oh, okay, I've got 1,000 landlords, this is their money, because that's how you move that data from platform A to platform B. And if you don't have that bit right, well, guess what? You're either going to realize that you don't have the money in your bank account that you should have, or it's going to go to the wrong person. So, like, yeah, you got to get that bit right.
Okay, so under the category of things you should have realized but didn't,
Mm.
looking back with your sort of experience now, what is the one thing that you would say agents sort of consistently underestimate when it comes to data migration into a new CRM? What's kind of like, is there a theme running through all of this?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of two things really that stands out. Is one is how connected everything is based on what I've just explained. So you've got like the data side, but then data is attached to tenancy data that's then attached to financial data, and everything kind of links together. So think of it as like an aeroplane. When you take off, everything might feel great and it's fine, but if something is slightly off, it doesn't show up immediately, but over time, you're literally going to steer off course completely. So I kind of like that analogy because I think visually people can kind of understand that. That's exactly what happens in a data migration. If something isn't quite right in one place, you might not see it straight away, but once it starts flowing through the system, it will end up being a problem further down the line when it matters the most importantly. So that's kind of how things are connected. And then secondly is time, which I've mentioned before. It's it's a temptation to move quickly and we haven't got enough people to do testing, or the timing's wrong to move, so we just want to get things done very, very quickly. But that's kind of where it tends to fall down. So it's very, very important to make sure that you've taken enough time to look at everything beforehand. And I think the key thing is getting the right people on board to achieve that, because sometimes I feel like agents and owners sometimes tend to hold on to things themselves because it's a big thing. It's your data, it's your
Yeah.
responsibilities, it's your clients, but getting the right people in to help you actually makes a big difference, because what you don't want is spending that time afterwards when everyone's already learning a new system, everyone has
Correct.
to get on with a day
And
job,
yeah, I
becomes
think
a challenge.
estate agents are so guilty of doing what we do, which is sort of assume that we know enough to
Mm.
sort of get it right, and you don't know what you don't know, and you need that, and that,
I use that line all the time. You don't know what you don't know. I think people are sick of me saying that, but it is true though. That's why it's sometimes you do need to either bring someone in or make sure you've got the time to be able to look at it. Because if you don't, unfortunately, it almost always, and 90% of the cases, it comes out after go live. Um,
well, I'm going to throw at you a question that you're not
mm.
expecting. It's not on our script, guys. We
Oh,
have
I'm
we
excited.
have some questions that we can work through, but I'm going to go off script here for a second.
Mm,
Um, When it comes to data migrations and CRMs, that's one of the questions that the actual CRM providers get asked when we're trying to pick the new CRM. How's my data migration going to go?
mm.
Now, my experience, I have done this 4 or 5 times over like a 12-year period, right? Each time I've lost something out. It's like moving home. You pack everything
Uh-huh.
up, and when you
Yeah.
unpack on the other side, there's
You're
always
like, I've
something
got
that's gone
missing stuff.
missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've done that now, and so I know that certain systems are better, and the CRM providers always assure me, yeah, we've done loads of these migrations. It's going to be absolutely fine. Everything's going to be
Easy
there when you
peasy.
get there. And then what I've found is actually that very often isn't the case, and it's not because they're not well intentioned, and it's not because they're not doing their job really well. They are to the best of their ability, but you are just one customer, and they cannot spend all of that time,
Mm,
the same amount of time, Clarice, that you will spend helping agents to migrate and to prepare and to get it tested and to get it settled
mhm.
in. And so I guess the question that I'm gonna to ask you runs counter to what the CRMs would say. They'll say, we're really good at migration. what's your view on it? Like, why and almost why did you feel like you had to you had a place in this to sort of step in and help?
Oh, that's a great question. I love this question. I always say to people, I'm like, it's like a bridge for me between software company and agent. Because as an agent myself, when we moved software systems, I experienced that trauma. Like we talked about that kind of, when a relationship breaks up and it's really hard work. It is quite a challenge. I think yes, CRM providers will obviously do their very best with the knowledge that they have and the experience that they have and the time that they have to be able to ensure that it's done end to end as best as possible. But they do put a lot of ownership onto agents because effectively it's your data, it's your responsibility to check it. We can facilitate the technical behind the scenes thing to move it over, and that's absolutely fine. And what I tend to find, and this has happened quite a lot, yes, they might be very experienced and they've done that data conversion for that platform numerous times. This is the key problem. Agents don't use the systems in the same way. You'll have different agents who will use it completely differently. The data won't look the same from, a conversion that they will do this month to the same conversion will do the next month because not all agents use the system in the same way. They will use different fields for different things. And it very much also comes down to perhaps agents could use the systems a bit better to help them achieve more. And if they did that, then maybe will make conversions a bit easier. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I think no two people use it in the same way, which means they're not all just lift and shift and dead easy templates to do. They all need dedicated attention and planning.
Okay, you handled that question particularly well and very diplomatically. CRM companies
Right.
came out of this okay. Panic's over, guys. Share values are going to remain on the level, okay? Uh, so we talk about sort of the waking up and realizing far down the line that something's wrong. Uh,
Mm.
I know this is an optimum for you, but can I come to you later after I've tried the migration myself and say, Chris, I've got loads of problems. Can you come and help me with it? I know that's not optimum, but is that
Mm.
would you troubleshoot on that basis or?
Yes, and I have in the past actually. I've done that for clients who have moved over, and there was some key things that they missed or didn't appreciate or didn't come up, which does happen surprisingly. So no data conversions 100%, even if they have done it numerous times. And even some of the latest projects I've worked on, where we thought we've tested absolutely everything, there are times when things do come up, and I have helped agents do that. It's very much down to what is it that you're trying to achieve, what part of the system is the bit that's giving you the problem, because that very much depends on what can we do, how long do we need, and sort of how successful will it be. So it very much depends on what the issue is and what's gone wrong, to be able to know how to fix it, I guess, and how quickly we can do it.
So we love stories. Give us a really memorable migration.
Okay. um okay, right. This is one of my favorites. I did some work for one of my sort of, I call him a regular client really. And I walked into an office several years ago to do one of his acquisitions, and they technically had a CRM system, but they weren't really using it, which is a common theme, unfortunately, for some agents, because they were very a bit sort of, I would say, the traditional old school type agents. They love paperwork, so they had lots of paperwork in lots of different places. I'm talking like spreadsheets, notes, physical files, some labeled, some not labeled, like a bit of everything really. So part of the job was sort of to go through all the files and piece everything together. And I had paperwork coming out of my ears, literally trying to sort it all out. So it did feel like a bit of detective work and sort of putting pieces of puzzle together. But by the end of it, after about a week of literally being up here and paperwork and data and stuff, we managed to get it all together. And they were so chuffed with actually having everything in one place. But it was such a daunting task. And they just didn't want to deal with it because they're like, I've got no idea where to start because I don't know what needs to go where. So that's kind of always stuck in my head because it was a real challenge. But I saw the benefits and how chuffed they were when everything was sort of in one place, and it was actually a lot less stressful. But yeah, that was I did turn around after that. I'm like, don't send me to one of those again.
So given these traumas that have informed your outlook and your experience, genuinely though, like estate agents watching this, I think for one, it'll be an eye opener to them that people like you exist, i.e., that
Mm,
you don't need to do this alone. You don't, it's not just you and the CRM company. There are
mm,
people that can help you get this right. You can plan it properly. You can be in control of it, which is something which he's so underestimated because and then it's the reason why we put it off. Business
mhm.
owners love control and they lose
It-
control in
yeah, yeah,
processes that they don't understand.
I
So,
do agree. Yeah,
so,
it it
who is it that you are looking to work with? What represents kind of the ideal client for you? Is it everybody or do you have like particular focus?
I mean, I guess it's kind of the agents that have got changes coming, and they kind of know, and I sort of I guess this is the key thing really. It's sort of some agents, and I'm going to be really honest, some will see value in this and will think, yes, this is perfect. We need that kind of person. Some will go, oh no, actually my portfolio is very small. I can do it myself. So you're going to have those agents, and that's totally fine. And it's very much going to be sort of those companies who knows that obviously they want to get it right first time. They perhaps haven't got the knowledge or the experience in house, and getting someone that's kind of done that numerous times can sort of educate them and help them and pull a team together that can make it happen, really. I guess those are the kind of companies that I love working with and I've enjoyed working with and would love to work with kind of going forward. Really, it's sort of it's almost like it's nice when you sort of see it through to the end and you feel like, oh, I've achieved something successful, everyone's happy, the data's in the right place, everyone's happy, great. Like I find that quite satisfying, like taking clients through that journey, and actually understanding like what I'm doing and actually having been agency experience, I think makes a big difference. So it's quite
Well,
satisfying.
well, that makes a lot of sense. You certainly took the right sort of agency language as well. I think that's important. So one of my favorite phrases is that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and one of the good intentions is that whole "we'll fix it later, we'll get to it later." If we could leave everybody on this recording with one last message, it's don't just say we'll fix it
Mm,
later.
don't
Do
do
you
it.
wanna sort of round that off for us?
Yeah, no, I definitely say it's an easy thing to do and say, and I think everyone's natural instinct is we'll fix it later. But like what I referenced earlier, it is probably the most expensive things to say. And the reason I say that is because it will cost money, far more, and it will cost a lot more time to have to fix it afterwards because it can have such a knock-on effect. So yeah, so I think one of the main things is to make sure that preparation is key. So be prepared. If you don't know, ask. It's better to know than not to know, and to deal with it head on than trying to not want to know the answer, because you'll feel more in control if you have all the answers and then put a plan together to how you're going to execute it, basically, and whether that's in house or with other people to try to help you. But yeah, ask lots of questions, be prepared, put the effort in because you'll reap the benefits. Yeah, that's probably how I
Sa-
would sum it up.
Sounds like sound advice. Look, to anybody watching this, it's clear that you're extremely knowledgeable, helpful, and nice to deal with. But what's the next step for them? Is it to book in with you and sort of do you have like almost like a discovery session to find out where they're at and what they want to achieve? What are the next steps?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Having a sort of 30-minute conversation about sort of where they're on that journey. Have they made the decision to move? Do they know who they're going with? Do they kind of understand the journey and the process? So it's very kind of like a light-hearted chat, and then kind of go from there afterwards to find out sort of what do they need help with, and do that under. I think it's also understanding what moving systems. What does that actually mean? Because I think for a lot of agents, the not knowing is the hardest bit. If you then know what's going to come, you can plan for it. And it's just about that session is more about sort of educating them, and helping them understand what is going to be required and what their journey is going to look like. So yes, absolutely. A 30-minute chat should be enough. But if anyone needs more time, I'm happy to help where I can and have a chat with them.
Well, take it from me, don't do it alone. It's a treacherous journey if you're trying to find your way along. And if you're busy, we're busy, we're business owners, we are making decisions, we're
Mm,
doing things, and the focus should be better invested on keeping the business running whilst all of this is still going on in the background. Leave
mm.
it to the people that know what they're doing, guys. You know how to sell and let houses. Let somebody else do the data
There's a
migration.
saying. What's the saying? The key to being really successful is to delegate really well. So there you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Delegate it out.
You heard it here
Less
first, folks.
stressful.
Thank you very much for your time today, Clarice. Thank
Thank
you.
you. No, really appreciate it. It was lovely to meet you. And yeah, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.